All right, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Fantasy Four Pack. Happy Sunday, guys, and happy Monday to everyone watching this when it airs. I'm your host, Ian Power, joined as always by Matt Vitale and Frankie Santiago, and we're mixing it up a little bit this week. We are moving over to a new league host for best ball drafts. We're going over to Underdog Fantasy. They're the same team that brought us Draft in previous years. And I was always a big fan of that client. I know I've turned you guys onto them recently. I really like how everything sort of works with them, and they're currently working on getting all of the features that we loved from Draft up and running on this one. You know, they're going to have the draft board back pretty soon, so you can see how all the teams are stacking up. They're expecting to have player exposures, hopefully before the start of the season, I would think. We're doing their main tournament today, which is currently only at about 5,000 out of 43,000. It's got a $1 million prize pool, $200,000 to first place. And it is a multi-entity tournament, so you can draft as many teams in that as your heart desires. I got to say that was always my favorite part of best ball, was doing the big tournament. So I'm happy to finally have another one at my fingertips. That was definitely something that Yahoo didn't have that I was missing. Before we launch, I want to go through a few notes today. Big one that I saw: T.Y. Hilton already getting an injury, slapped with a hammy injury, which isn't great given that he was dealing with that a lot last year. I know it's early, so he should be over this hammy injury by the time the season starts, hopefully. But it's still worrisome for me to see T.Y., a player who's been dealing with more injuries as he's been getting older, already have an injury this early in the year.
I was worried you were going to say COVID.
I'm getting to that.
Yeah, it's definitely something to keep an eye on for people who are interested in the Michael Pittman Juniors and the Paris Campbells of the world. Definitely keep an eye on this guy, because if he's not available for the start of the season, that just boosts the value.
Or even if he's limited to start the season.
Yeah.
Other big injury-related news: Stafford and Minshew both placed on the COVID list. It's early in August, so hopefully that is a short stay on the list, and they're back playing for their teams by the time the season kicks off. But it is something to keep an eye on. And honestly, it might be a little bit of a, if it is in fact that once you get it, you can't get it again, might be a boost for them. You know, those are two quarterbacks that fantasy owners are eyeing that potentially will be good for your team throughout the season as long as they can stay otherwise healthy.
Yeah, I mean, there's some players that just deal with those lasting effects where it can really drain you.
Yeah,
we are far enough out where I have hope that these guys should be clear and ready to go. I mean, it's not like they're missing mini camps or preseason stuff.
Yeah, we're obviously hoping they're not going to end up like Eduardo Rodriguez, but can't really control that.
And hopefully there's no NFL regulation where it's like if you get COVID, you're just done for the year.
Well, we already know there isn't. And so
things change. You never know.
They could, but I mean that would be tough, especially in a season where we're likely going to see a lot of people catching this. That'd be tough on teams to actually have a season if once you get it, you're out. Only other injury-related news that I saw, and this isn't the biggest news in the world, just something to keep your eye on, but Jarvis Landry, Sony Michel, and Mohamed Sanu all are going on to the PUP list. They're all expected to be back for the start of the season, but kind of like with T.Y. Hilton, it's something to keep an eye on, because if something happens with any of those players where for some reason they can't start the season, those are all guys, with the exception of Mohamed Sanu, who are being drafted decently high, at least in the single-digit rounds, and you don't want to accidentally overdraft one of them if they're not going to be ready to start the year.
Yeah, like I said, it's same thing with Paris Campbell and Pittman Jr., where I'm just boosting Damian Harris and guys behind these players just a little bit more in my rankings. I was already hoping for the Damian Harris show, being just a Pats fan in general.
Yeah.
I want to see what that kid can do.
I'd like to see a more exciting running back than Sony.
I would also like to see Damian Harris and Paris Campbell pan out.
Yeah, because Mr. Hot Take over there. As always, socials. Follow us on YouTube. Subscribe. Hit that notification bell. That way you get notified as soon as any new content drops. We want to be able to have our fans be on top of everything. We strive to be as Johnny on the spot as possible with this sort of stuff. So if you are in the know, I guess, as it goes, then you will be able to get our videos as soon as they drop. Past that, follow us on Twitter at Fantasy4Pack for the show. That's Fantasy number 4Pack. F the number 4P _ Ian for myself. The Fpoon, FPOON.
Oh, yeah.
And Senpai Koala. You can get all of our fantasy related musings. With that, let me see what we are still. Looks like we're still waiting on 3 people for this draft lobby to fill. So we will rejoin you all when the draft lobby officially fills. See you in a few minutes. All right, we are 60 seconds from the draft starting. Couple things to note. Just differences from Yahoo to this. Draft is half point, not full point. It's a 12-man, not a 10-man, so the rosters are going to stretch a little bit further. It is 18 roster spots, and there are no defenses on draft. On draft, you just draft QBs, running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends.
Yeah.
So it is honestly a little bit of a different drafting style than you do on really any other league host for Best Ball or Redraft or Dynasty. I really like it. I was always a fan of them last year. 20 seconds to go until it starts. I'm just going to run you guys through where we're all picking. I am picking out of the 2-hole. Vitali is picking out of 6, and Frankie,
As usual.
is picking up the rear at 8.
Some things never change.
Yeah, I feel like you haven't got an early pick yet.
I have not. Actually, in all of our drafts, I have never been above 6, I believe.
Well, we're underway now. One thing I did want to
Wash on the clock.
Yeah, just one thing I wanted to note about one thing I really like just from the start of this, the ability to just see at the top exactly what the people coming up have on their team already. So you can see if they have already drafted their first quarterback, if they've gone.
Oh yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
It's a very useful little tool. Like I said, that's one of the reasons I like this dev team so much. The ones that brought us draft and now Underdog, is because they think of little quality of life things that other league hosts don't always have. I obviously took Saquon Barkley at 2. No analysis that needs to go into that.
Dobby the Free Elf is up right now at 3.
He is taking his time for what should be an easy pick. Just lock in Zeke and move on.
Locked in Zeke.
27 seconds to pick Zeke.
Yeah. We got Derrick Henry off the board at 4, and then the guy right before me. Let's see what he
That's a
can
little
take.
surprising to me. Derrick Henry's one where I don't have a good...
Alvin Kamara. That's what I hate to see.
Henry is someone who I never really have a good feel for where he should be going, because he's someone who, if you really like him, he could go at 4, or he could go as far back as like 7 or 8.
Yeah, this makes that pick a lot more complicated for me.
I would just draft Dalvin here, honestly.
He's
Yeah.
probably the one where I'm like, I'm gonna take him, but I'm not happy. I was much more hoping for that Kamara to fall to me. But yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and lock in Dalvin.
See, especially in best ball, Dalvin's someone who I'm very interested in best ball, more so than redraft, because if he does get hurt, it's easier to make sure that you have people backing him up.
Yeah, I am going to take
So,
the
Clyde
Vitali.
Edwards at 7.
I'm not really shocked. I've been doing a fair amount of best ball this season, and since that news came out, the 6 to 9 range or 6 to 10 range is where I've been seeing CEH go.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Vitali favorite here in Mr. Joe Mixon. Not really much to say there. Other
Now,
than,
would you have taken CEH if he fell to 8?
Um,
We have a couple picks to go until you're back up.
I
so.
don't have any shares in CEH, so I probably would have just to have that, if he pops, he pops. I mean, that KC offense is something where it's like you can never be up too high because we know how
Miles
good they are on
Sanders
the
at
field.
9. That's a,
Yeah, we've had 9 running backs in a row before
at
Michael
10.
Thomas finally went.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what I talk about when I say that people need to sort of prepare for best ball a little bit. And honestly, this could be what we see in regular drafts too, where like there's going to be runs on running backs this year because of how front loaded that position is.
Yeah.
You don't want to be late to the running back party.
Yeah, that's why I was sitting there. I was like, Michael Thomas is the best player right here who could provide such a value to my team, but missing out on a running back in those first 3 rounds.
Well, and think about it. If you took Michael Thomas at 6, or 6 is where you drafted. If you take Michael Thomas at 6, you're not picking again until 18.
Yeah.
I mean, your first running back could be like Todd Gurley.
Yeah. Like I said, it's one of those things where it was not a thought in my mind that I wasn't taking a running back there. It was just which running back do I feel like I want to take a little early. But so right now we got the turnaround going into the second round. After Michael Thomas, it was Kenyon Drake. Now we got Devontae Adams, and I'm assuming this guy's going to take either Chubbs or Jacobs here. It's just the clear pick with him.
What if he goes back to back wide receiver?
It
Well,
would be very bold, and I would think it'd be very dumb.
That's the thing too, is I think that this speaks more to you want to draft your running backs early because you're playing in best ball. You're playing for that pop game. You're playing for that guy who can get you those 3 touchdowns. Like you're not necessarily playing for the safety of, I want to get that wide receiver that's going to get me like consistent numbers. You can personally.
He drafted back-to-back wide receiver, Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill.
All right.
Now,
That's bold.
To go back to what I was trying to say, it was more of you want to get those top end running backs because you can always find those wide receivers who are going to pop later.
In the rollover spots
All right, Frankie,
defense though, I don't think it's crazy to take a running back and a wide receiver if you're in the back half of the first round because you are getting away from those surefire backs at that point.
Yeah.
I think as long as you lock down one and then if you get an elite wide receiver to pair with it, that is a perfectly valid strategy as long as you circle back around to get more running backs in the third and fourth.
All right. 10 seconds. What are you looking at here, Frankie?
I want to go running back again, and I mean I think you know who I'm going to take here.
Yeah.
I'd be surprised if you didn't take Aaron Jones at 2-5.
Yeah.
So I'm probably gonna lose my pick right here because it feels like that's exactly who he's gonna take.
Who are you hoping for?
I'm hoping for Julio Jones here just because I think he's the best, just a great value at
Well, it looks
the
like you
middle.
get your wish.
I am gonna get my wish. Like I said, I was looking at Eckler and I was like, I'm not too sold on him. I'll take the upside of Julio potentially having that wide receiver 1 value.
Sure, I love it.
It's like I said, Dalvin has that flakier, less than like he could be the running back one, but it's gonna be like stars align have to get there. Julio, it's not a stretch to say he's the one.
Honestly, I don't feel that the stars really have to align that much for Dalvin to hit one. I mean, we know he's going to get the volume. We know he's talented. It's just, is he going to stay on the field for the full season? If he can avoid getting hurt, he very easily could end up in the one spot because he's in an offense that wants to feature him. He's going to get the volume. It's it's sort of it's easier for the stars to align for someone like him.
Yeah, it's not a stretch. That's why he's the first round running back. But it's like of the first round running backs, he makes me feel worried.
All right. Well, there's basically just wide receivers on the clock now for me.
Yeah.
The running backs dried up quick.
And we did have our first quarterback go.
Yeah,
210.
Lamar Jackson right before me. That's too early. I'm going to take a guy that I have been pounding the drum for all off season. I'm going to take Kenny Golladay. And I'm just going to hope that the running backs that I like fall to me at 3-2.
Interesting. So before your next pick comes back up, why don't you walk me through why you didn't take your other,
Chris Godwin?
your other love, Chris Godwin?
I like that Golladay has. I think Golladay has the higher ceiling on a week-to-week basis, which I like in best ball. And also, I'm just not really I'm not really a fan of that. Of that Tampa Bay offense as much this year. I mean, you guys know that I'm not really, despite being a New England fan, I'm not really a Brady fan. I don't like having to attach myself to receivers in a offense that just got a new quarterback, and that new quarterback is 42 years old. I mean, he realistically could bust. We've seen it happen to other greats. What happened when Peyton Manning fell off that cliff? His receivers did not have a good year that year. I don't want to put myself in that position if I can avoid it. If there's other guys that I like almost as much. And then I took Todd Gurley at 3-2, which is who I was hoping was going to fall to me anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as we're running back down to my pick, a big one that definitely raised my eyebrows. Chris Godwin went to the guy on the wraparound, or who was the number 1 pick.
Yeah.
And then he went James Conner to start the third. I think it was very bold way. He is.
Yeah, I mean,
I like James Conner where he's going per ADP. I think it's a little cheaper, and you're getting a guy who could be quite good and be that low end RB1 potentially. But in the third round, I think you're losing a lot of that value. Back on the clock here, and honestly, I'm not a huge fan of here. I like I said, I love Juju Smith-Schuster. I love, Amari Cooper here is not a bad value. It's just I feel like if I take them, I'm losing out on running backs. But the running backs that are left are just not quite the value I want to reach for. So I'm just gonna go ahead and buy it on a wide receiver on a good offense. I'm just going to go ahead and take Amari Cooper as my second wide receiver. Sure.
That's what I was going to say I would do in your shoes here, because especially when you look at the ADPs of the running backs still on the board, unless we start reaching for them as well, which I guess is possible given how running backs go, but
yeah,
they're less sexy names. People aren't as jazzed to take them. It's likely that you're going to get a Leonard Fournette or a Chris Carson or a Melvin Gordon at your next pick anyway.
Yeah.
So you could hurt yourself by skipping a guy like Amari Cooper or Juju in the third round when you don't need to reach for the running back.
Right. And like I said, I feel like that's what we're going to see with redraft leagues where you want to go to running backs, but you're just where you land at the draft just doesn't pan out for you to do so. So I'm not a fan of being one running back, 2 wide receivers coming out of the third.
Sure.
But I can't hate that I have 2 wide receivers that have huge game upside.
And you are seeing it now. I mean, Frankie took A.J. Brown, but you are seeing it now with the picks going off the board. I mean, it's been, 10 wide receivers in a row now?
Yeah, other than Todd Gurley, I really don't like a lot of these running backs going in that third round range, to be honest.
Yeah. And Gurley is someone who's typically not going to fall past, 3-1, 3-2, 3-3, because he is sort of the shiniest of that bunch of running backs.
Yeah.
This guy here's already got. He's the guy who went with the rollover and went double wide receiver. So you figure he's probably going to be going double running back, or my guess, running back into maybe either a quarterback or a tight end. But he's got to at least take one running back.
I'm not surprised that he grabbed Chris Carson there. I mean, I think that's good value for Chris Carson.
I'm looking at the board of guys coming up, and I'm just like seeing Jonathan Taylor still this high up in boards is still surprising me to no end.
Well, and keep in mind too, when you're looking at this site uses their own ADP, which actually is pretty helpful for these kind of drafts, because when you're looking down the board, you're not looking at a generic ADP. That's the ADP from all of the best ball drafts that have been done so far on Underdog. So it gives you a more accurate sort of picture as to who might be going.
So he just went ahead and locked up another wide receiver. So he's 3 wide receivers deep through 4.
He's probably going to have the best wide receiver core in this little bunch of teams.
I mean, you definitely hope if with that kind of investment, you'd hope.
Yeah, that's. I can't recommend that strategy just because the running backs, as we've stated a bunch of times before, they dry up fast. Very good chance that if you don't have 2 running backs going out of the 4th round, you're not going to be happy with what your core looks like at the end of the draft.
Yeah,
it's going to be like, Nick Chubb and then like Phillip Lindsay and Duke Johnson and Tariq Cohen.
Per the Denver Broncos, Phillip Lindsay's part of the best running back duo in football.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the kid's talent, but
all right, Frank, you're up. What are you looking at?
Wow us with your pick, Frankie.
Yeah, I'm gonna take another running back here.
Wow us.
I'm gonna take David Johnson.
You're a bastard, man.
I was going to reach across this table and slap you.
Yeah, they're gonna
because finally was able to look at it. You guys all already had your 2 running backs, and then everyone just went running back, and I'm looking back at the board again, and I'm already looking at just a slew.
But Tyler, what was I just preaching? That I want to stack running backs early and pick up wide receivers.
Yeah, that I'm gonna throw up in my mouth because the best running, I have to take him. There's just no way around it. He's one of the last guys that's get true talent and is at least gonna get the job.
It's David Montgomery.
It's Le'Veon Bell. I don't like that he's on a terrible offense. I'm just hoping maybe they as a whole can take a step forward. But I'm at least getting guaranteed work with Le'Veon Bell, and we've seen that he has the talent to be a top back.
I wouldn't have taken him there. I would have just reached on David Johnson, honestly.
Going back to your own point, coming out of I would have gone David Johnson too, but he wasn't there.
Oh, I'm sorry, David Montgomery. I would have just reached on David Montgomery there.
Montgomery, I'd rather play the game and see if I can get him in the 5th.
Well, you're not going to. I'll give you a little look into the future.
I'm just saying, to your own advice. You got to come out with a running back, and David Montgomery hasn't shown us anything yet. At least I know what I'm getting with Le'Veon Bell. It's just the situation around is what I hate. I don't hate Le'Veon Bell.
So Ian, with 10 seconds before your pick, who are you thinking right here?
I've already got 2 running backs, and I want to lock up a wide receiver that I really like to make sure I have 2 wide receivers also. So I am going to gamble, and this might come back to bite me, but I am going to gamble here that David Montgomery is still going to be there at 5'2", and I'm going to take Robert Woods at 4'11".
I think you should gamble for 6. I think that round 6, David Montgomery, he might be there.
I mean, that would be a pretty juicy price, but no.
I'll just tell everyone to sit on him. Don't worry about it.
I will not be waiting until the end of the 6th round to hope that David Montgomery makes it. I mean, if he makes it through 4'11" and 5'1", I'm happy to take him at 5'2" as my 3rd running back.
Yeah.
I've got a pretty solid wide receiver core there with Kenny Golladay and Robert Woods, and he did in fact make it to me.
Yeah, I didn't have any worry that he was going. This guy, Terry McLaurin going there, it makes. I don't think it's a bad pick. I just think it's a bad pick for his team because he was already 3 wide receivers deep. He's now 4 wide receivers deep with
who? Gouache.
With Gouache. His team is sitting pretty shallow at running back right now.
It's not great.
He is currently sitting at 2 running backs, 2 tight end, or it's definitely more than that. But like he went tight end early, double wide receiver. Oh no, sorry, he's not the one with double wide receiver. I take that back. It's the guy at the 12 hole who went double wide receiver. That's why I was thinking it was off. But rolling back down to me, we had DJ Chark, Cortland Sutton after you, Ian.
DJ Chark, do.
Here, my guess is this guy's probably going to end up going Mark Ingram, which is a bummer because I probably would take him to try and shore up my running back core a bit, just on a guy on a run heavy team, and he's on the cheaper side, so I can kind of anchor my already not as great depth, I guess.
Honestly, I was considering taking Ingram because so Ingram's older and he's not as shiny a name, I guess, but I was considering taking Ingram over David Montgomery just because the Ravens are such a better offense than the Bears.
Yeah. I'm just going to, like I said, I'm not a huge Ingram guy, but when I look at what's coming up next for running backs, I want to have 3 running backs now, and I don't want to be trying to bargain bin with guys, Raheem Mostert I still like, but
no, I think Mark Ingram at 5'6", that's a great pick there. I mean, he's not going to lead the league in rushing, but he might lead the league in tight end or in touchdowns. Yeah, he might lead the league in touchdowns, at least for running backs.
Yeah,
like it's not out of the realm of possibility. He has a LeGarrette Blount season where he just falls into the end zone 15 times.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely going to be the goal line guy there, and
he's the heavy back in that offense.
He's the vet. He's the heavy back. They still have the big knock on him is the high-profile rookie they took behind him.
Dobbins.
Dobbins. I don't know why I was thinking somebody else, way other name. I was like, it's not that. But
I mean, they just took Justice Hill last year. They had Gus Bus. I think actually Gus Bus still is on the team. So it is there's a lot of bodies in that backfield.
Right, but they also took Mark Ingram knowing that they were starting him over all those other guys. So I'm not too worried. And the fact that they dipped back in to get another rookie in Dobbins shows that they probably have less faith in Gus and Hill to ever be their starting guy. So I think it's a situation similar to Marlon Mack where they're just going to run Mark Ingram into the ground, make sure their rookie's good to go. And with the shortened preseason, granted, running back is an easier position to pick up. I still have faith that Mark Ingram has more of a hold in the job than if we were in a regular season.
Sure, I mean that's fair. I just think that he gets disrespected too much, and I like where he's going. It's a range where I'm not being asked to spend a 3rd round pick or a 4th round pick on him like we've had to in the past. You get him for a mid-5th, that's fine. I mean, the guys that are going in the mid-5th for the most part are guys that have question marks. DeAndre Swift, Raheem Mostert, Cam Akers, Kareem Hunt. Those are all the guys, at least on Underdog. That's the range they're going in. I'd rather have him than all of those guys. At least he's playing on a very good team that features running backs heavily. You don't have to worry about you worry about his age, but that's about it.
Yeah. Like I said, the other guys just have huge question marks about their usage that you have to really just guess at. Like
Raheem Mostert, it's 16 backs in that backfield. Cam Akers, same thing.
Yeah. Kareem Hunt is the backup to a superior, or at least at this time, superior back. Singletary, Buffalo just went and got it. Zach Moss. There's
for some reason they just don't want to use Singletary.
I know your pain as the Kerryon Johnson owner in our dynasty league. I feel your pain, but
Frankie, I was going to say you were going to have the opportunity to show your love for Singletary and draft him, but he went 2 picks ahead of you, just forever getting sniped.
All right, you're up.
I already had a plan here.
What's the plan?
I'm gonna go quarterback in the 6th. Just so I don't have to worry about it. Just so I don't have to worry about it later.
Getting Russell?
I was looking at Gallup there, which I'm more sad about. No, I'm going to draft Kyler Murray here.
I don't hate it.
That offense is, they're going to throw the ball a lot. There's a lot of chances out there for big plays.
He has a sky-high upside.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really what you're getting with Kyler that you don't get with a lot of the other ones in this range is Kyler could be Lamar Jackson of this year because he does have that obscene rushing upside. We didn't see it a ton last year, but it was there in college. We know he still has it.
Yeah, I'm going to sit on quarterback for this one just because there's a lot of later round guys I like. I am going to go with a little bit more of a higher tight end, though. I'm going to go with Waller, who's a guy I've been pumping. I've joined the bus for. He seems to always go a little ahead of where I want to pay for him. But 6th round, I've already got 3 running backs, 2 wide receivers. There's some late wide receivers I like. So I'm good. I'm ready to buy in on a tight end right now.
I really enjoyed paying waiver wire prices for Waller last year. That was great.
Yeah, there's always
yeah, it must be nice.
I'm so glad I got him instead of Hawkinson. That was a.
Yeah, I got the King's ransom from Brad for Hawk.
I say it's always nice when you're the guy who gets one of those breakout guys who then has that season because you paid next to nothing for them and you just get to enjoy the fruits of your waiver wire bidding for the rest of the year.
Yeah, and it always seems like there's those type of guys always seem to have almost no shine on them going to. Like Darren Waller had a little bit. Like he's usually maybe on a deep sleeper report, but there's guys like that all the time. Terry McLaurin. You just go back and there's just these guys who are like, what? Where did this guy come from? Like the fantasy community is always just stunned, and it's just whoever was the one to gamble on that production early, it usually pays out big for them.
So I went ahead and locked up Tyler Boyd here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like this range that I'm in now as much as I did before because, I mean, you guys know, Frankie especially knows, I would steal Ronald Jones for Frankie all the time in this range. I don't really, with the news that the Bucks signed Shady McCoy, I don't really know if I want to pay back of the 6th, beginning of the 7th round prices for Ronald Jones when they, I mean, you don't bring Shady in if you're not going to at least use him a little bit. He's too good of a back. It scares me off him a little bit. I think his price is too high now for what you're getting out of what could be just a timeshare.
Yeah, now that there are multiple heads in that offense, I'm getting.
I mean, there was always multiple heads, but now there's multiple heads that I'm worried about.
Yeah, it's I'm getting more lukewarm on him, if you will.
So I went ahead with my wraparound there, and I just drafted 2 receivers that I like in this range: Boyd and Cooks.
Mm-hmm.
I think they both provide a lot of upside for where they're being drafted. I mean, we've talked about both of them on this show already throughout the offseason. They're safe picks at these rounds. You know, neither of them are gonna wow you, but you'll be happy you had them because they sort of anchor the position on weeks where your boomer bust guys bust. All right, Vitaly, you are at max 26 seconds away from your pick. What are you looking at 7-6 here?
I'm looking at 2 guys that work out of the slot, whether it be Jarvis or Jules, to just be a back-end guy to kind of keep me with a consistent stream of targets.
You're not thinking about Deontay Johnson here?
I am. I think that he's a little early for me. Like I said, I do like that Pittsburgh wide receivers. I think it's just I want that guaranteed target volume. I'm probably leaning towards Jules mainly just because of that Sandlot-esque photo he took with Cam Newton, where they said he was cut up like a ham, and he does look in phenomenal shape, especially for his age. So I'm just gonna go ahead and lock in Jules, who is just kind of a perennial he just kind of falls his way to 1,000 yards and a boatload of targets. So it's less valuable in half point, but for my third wide receiver, I can't hate it.
I would have probably gone Jarvis Landry or Deontay Johnson over Jules just because I don't like old receivers. I don't like the fact that he's got a new quarterback.
Yeah, like I said,
he always gets hurt, like literally always gets hurt.
Like I said, it's just a guy who's I guaranteed for 1,000. Jarvis, I'd rather the guy who's the wide receiver 1 on his team, at least going into the season, as opposed to Jarvis, who absolutely will not be the wide receiver 1 on his team.
Mm.
Yeah, I got kind of sad there because I was going for the boom with Marvin Jones, but I am going to unregrettably take Jarvis there.
He's the safer pick.
Yeah.
He's a consistently underrated wide receiver. He's just, you know what he's going to give you. He's going to give you top 24 upside, and he'll have some really big weeks and then some just kind of average weeks. And you want him for the big weeks, and you like the average weeks when the rest of your wide receiver core kind of flops on you.
I respectfully agree.
That's a eyebrow raiser there. Kerryon Johnson in the 7th.
Did I miss something?
If he's coming back, I mean, my heart just went aflutter. I was like, is it time? Did it happen? Do I have to ring the bells?
I wouldn't. I don't. I think that. I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe Troy knows something that I don't. But
I'm just saying, it's like the beacon's lit. Is Gondor calling for it? Do I have to muster the Rohirrim?
I would not start waving your Kerryon Johnson flag yet. You can keep that safely stashed in the attic.
It's down here. It's right here. It's ready to go.
You are. It's. I mean, we're drafting live people, and that's one thing I can't stress enough is live people make bonehead moves sometimes. That just falls under that. When you see that, unless there actually is news that causes them to jump, like with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Don't let that sway your future decision. Just be like, all right, take the gift and move on.
Yeah, you flip your phone open, just do a quick Twitter search on their name, see if any news popped up. Nothing new. Continue as you were before that pick.
Yes.
Just consider them having punted that pick down the road.
Give up the glory. Loves wide receivers.
Yeah.
He's already got 4 in the 7th round.
Yeah, it's like I said, once again, just it's a nice thing for me. It's keeping the running backs on there.
So one thing you can do on here, you can click on people's teams and it pulls up their team in the bottom right hand window. His running back core, just to further illustrate my point, Chris Carson and DeAndre Swift.
Those are two very
I
okay running backs.
you know what? I'm gonna go on a limb and say I don't think that's very good.
You know, he kind of exemplifies what I'm talking about when I say you don't look the gift horse in the mouth. You take the gift and you move on. Mm-hmm. He's a sort of player who he'll just sit there and just suck up all these garbage players for you and allow you to make some nice picks later on in the draft.
Yeah. Marlon Mack in the 8th. I don't hate that pick though.
I like it a lot more than I like the Kerryon Johnson pick. I'll say that much.
Yeah, Kerryon's a guy like just because of my love for the kid. I'll try and target him late in drafts just because if he keeps his job, I think he's got the talent. It's just he can't stay on the field. But I'll take him with a late pick. I'm talking double digits.
Like 12 tops.
Yeah, like 11, 12, like I said, if I've got nothing there. But even then, there's still guys that are shiny down that range that I feel like I'm losing out on the value here. But you know what? I like the kid. I'll go with him.
Mecole Hardman, huh, Frankie?
Yeah, at this point in the draft, I pretty much have my running backs locked up. So I'm just playing for those receivers at this point who are going to have those boom weeks. And where can you look for other than the Chiefs wide receivers for boom weeks?
Plenty of offenses, actually. I think that 8-5 is a little early on Mecole Hardman. He's someone who the hype is spiking hard on him. I don't like it because he's going to have a lot of bad weeks.
So here I'm a little torn on who I'm looking at because a lot of the rookie wide receivers are starting to come up, and I'm not ready to buy in on them just yet. So I'm just gonna go. It still feels a little bit of reach for me, but I'm just gonna go ahead and lock in a quarterback and go ahead and take Mr. Matthew Ryan. Just because I didn't feel like I was gonna see him in the 9th.
You weren't. I was taking him at 8-11. Son of a.
Yeah, there you go. That's for Montgomery.
Well, there's other there's other quarterbacks that I like that I can just grab
are.
later. You know, easy come, easy go. I'm honestly more sad that Jalen Reagor went off the board at 8-9 than I am about Matt Ryan at 8-7 because Reagor was someone I was looking at my next little grouping of picks here. So
yeah,
for me, you're not wrong when you say this is the range of the rookie wide receiver, and I don't love a lot of them this year. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab a very safe, boring guy. I'm going to take Jordan Howard to get my 4th running back off the board. He's someone who he's a floor play. He'll give me 9-10 points a week, and you are never going to be excited about 9 or 10 points a week, but it's a nice thing to have, especially if some of your other running backs get hurt or one of them it just has a down game. They run into the Bears defense or something, and they're allowing 2 yards a carry, and you're like, all right, cool, they're doing nothing for me this week.
Yeah.
Jordan Howard is just he's that sort of guy that you can just rely on to just go out there. He's gonna grind out 4 yards a carry and get you 87 yards and maybe a touchdown, and you're like, cool. I don't know how to feel about that. It's not great, but at least I'm not underwater.
Yeah, like looking at the top of the board right now, like I said, I'm sorting by just running backs and wide receivers at this point, mainly because I already have those two. But just seeing the top of the board of Keyshawn Vaughn and Sony Michel,
it's not great.
It leaves bad taste in your mouth. And I'm wondering when someone will just like no brainer just grab one of those two because they're at the top of the ADP right now.
I actually am reaching down a little bit here with my next one. I'm going to grab another running back and take Latavius Murray. I've stated in the past that he's one of the only handcuffs I have any interest in, and it's because we've seen that he can be a standalone back. He has the talent there, obviously. He's been it for multiple other teams. So I'm not worried about him not being able to succeed. And then we also know that Alvin Kamara really can't shoulder that full workload, so decent chance that Latavius Murray has flex value by himself with the added benefit of if Kamara misses time, you now have a very good running back on a very good offense. So you're about to come back up here, 9-6. As you've been saying, the board is kind of... This is a tough range.
Ooh,
Are you reaching on someone here?
That's a rough one for me. I was hoping to wait on taking Alexander Madison there, but I'll just go and grab some other valuable handcuff type guys. Here I wasn't looking at him either. I was looking at a wide receiver that I want to get in on, and it's more of just who do I want to buy in right now. I'm probably just going to go ahead and with Darius Slayton and buy that maybe the hype of that good rookie year continues into this upcoming year.
Sure.
Like I said, I've been more of a Sterling Shepard guy, but just when you look back at the stats and you haven't seen him...
Sterling Sheppies.
But it's just when a guy comes out, and especially a wide receiver, and he shows out in his first year, like early breakouts for wide receivers are usually what you want to see. Young guys that break out early usually have a better track record in the NFL.
You want to see that they can do it.
Right. But when you see Sterling Shepard 3 years in the NFL, granted he was behind Odell Beckham, hasn't eclipsed 1,000 yet, hasn't really been there. The touchdown numbers haven't really been there. I'm starting to slide into the Darius Slayton camp of I'd rather just buy the talent there.
Shepard does sort of feel like someone who might just be a wide receiver. I mean, not everyone's destined to be a star in the NFL.
Yeah.
Like Shepard might just be someone who's destined to be, that consistent wide receiver too. He can't fight off the top corners. He's not gonna, win any awards for his wide receiver performance, but you're never sad to have him on your team.
Yeah. It's an unfortunate thing especially when you like with guys you like, where you think that they're ready they finally have the opening to take their job, and and then the rookie comes out and just shows over them.
Hunter Henry, huh, Frankie?
Yeah, I wanted to jump back to one. Just pick your brain on that one.
Well, like I said, with the wide receiver, it's kind of the same deal. I'm kind of just blanketing that. Well, I mean, he's my starting tight end, but I'm kind of just going to blanket that tight end for the touchdown now. For my last couple picks are probably going to be there's probably going to be one running back in there, and then just all wide receivers and tight ends for the most part.
I guess I'm just surprised because Hunter Henry just seems lesser than the other guys in that range. I mean, he's someone who honestly kind of reminds me of Sterling Shepard. We just keep waiting for Hunter Henry to break out, and honestly, it's getting to the point where he might just not break out.
Yeah,
this might just be who he is.
Yeah, losing a quarterback that likes to use his tight ends is definitely a downgrade. Tyrod is he's a good placeholder quarterback to keep your team at least decently competitive, but he's not a fantasy guy. You don't want him leading a fantasy squad for you.
I think the word you're looking for is placeholder or journeyman.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not hugely ready to buy in that on the Chargers team. There's definitely some.
I hate almost everyone on it.
There's guys I have interest in, but they all took a hit this offseason with them going with Tyrod over any other quarterback.
Oh yeah, that's why I hate almost everyone on that offense. They're gonna be a bottom offense. I don't like to tie myself to bottom tier offenses when I can avoid it. I think individually there are plenty of players on that offense who have talent, but
we are now 2 picks out for you, Frankie. Come to your 10th pick. You got 1 quarterback, 3 running backs, 4 receivers, and a tight end. What are you looking at?
I'm looking at another receiver here.
I know you missed Michael Gallup. Are you going to take the new Michael Gallup?
Well, we'll see what happens with TKS Tigers.
So you are looking at CeeDee Lamb then?
I am looking at CeeDee Lamb.
Hoping that number 88 brings the good juju back to you?
And he did not take CeeDee Lamb.
He took a much smarter wide.
But the bigger question is, will this guy actually catch the ball?
I will use my time. He did catch it, by the way. NFL came out and said it.
You just see like the Vietnam flashbacks of Des Bryant missing it, just scrolling across Frankie's eyes.
No, I remember watching that game live. That was awful. I don't want to talk about it.
I did go read back. I guess I hadn't really watched it that much, and I saw it from a couple angles. But when I went back, I was like, "Wow, yeah, that was a catch. That was a catch." So, man, here I'm just gonna take a guy who's once again got another. We've got some upside with, and just get me just some more depth at receiver.
Sterling Shepard, the guy you were just shitting on.
No, I was considering Anthony Miller here. I'm actually just going to go for the depth at running back. I need another 4th running back right now, so I'm just going to go ahead and take Tariq Cohen.
Sure.
It's just I
don't think he's going to reach 2018 numbers.
Yeah, I don't expect big things from him, but in the 10th round, that's why he's in the 10th round. I'm just expecting a guy who's going to catch some balls, maybe get a touchdown or 2, and be a good fill-in for a bye week or something.
I think he's just fine in that range. He's not gonna kill you, and if he does, that's why that's one of the advantages of best ball. There's no messing with your lineup. You don't have to guess when Tariq Cohen's going to be good. Exactly. When he's good, he's in your lineup. When he's not, he's on your bench.
Yeah.
I'm really hoping that Dobby doesn't take Anthony Miller, because you didn't take him, I would love to snap him up here.
Oh yeah, like I said, it was definitely.
And he did.
Well, it sucks to be you.
So
Yeah.
I'm gonna pivot and I'm gonna go over to tight end then, because tight ends are beginning to fly off the board a little bit. So I'm gonna lock up. I might go honestly back to back tight end here. I'm definitely gonna take Hawkinson at 10-11. I kind of have to see what the board looks like at 11-2. Because I do still need a quarterback. I'm 5 running backs, 4 wide receivers, and a tight end. I'm going to draft more depth at tight end because I'm running with Hawk and not one of these more surefire. I mean, Hawk's ceiling is immense, but his floor is the floor. Like, his floor could be like like it was last year, which was terrible. So I do want to get maybe a little more of a consistent guy, or at least get another potential breakout guy with him, so that hopefully one of them breaks out. But the quarterback market is drying. I mean, right now we have Aaron Rodgers, Ben Roethlisberger, Baker Mayfield, Jared Goff. It is drying up a little bit. So
this is definitely the range where I would try and start grabbing multiple guys and just grab guys who have those upside week, like a Big Ben, who when he's at home and he's comfortable and the matchup's right, he can put up points for you. But then,
I mean, I'm gonna grab Aaron Rodgers here.
Yeah.
The more because I was just looking at both quarterback and tight end side to side, and when you look at the ADPs, it's likely that some tight ends that I like are going to fall to me. But I don't think I can get a guy with Aaron Rodgers' consistency after the 11th round. So it's worth it to me to maybe miss out on a Mike Gesicki or an Austin Hooper or a Noah Fant to grab Aaron Rodgers, because I don't think any of those guys that I just mentioned could be the number one at their position, but Rodgers could.
Yeah. I think it's funny that, I'm once again looking at that to take a running back or a wide receiver here. And Sterling Shepard is still sitting there staring me in the face.
Eventually you got to bite, right?
You know what? I'm going to go ahead and not bite. I'm going to go ahead and reach a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and take N'Keal Harry there.
The shade is real. Holy crap.
Yeah. Like I said, it's just if I made the decision that I think Darius Slayton's the better pick, I don't think it helps my team by then going back and then taking the same guy, because I'm curbing my points for that team, because the Giants can only score so many touchdowns. I ideally want to try and get as many touchdowns from as many different offenses that I like, and I just think I love the upside for N'Keal Harry this year.
Frankie, real fast, this one's a follow-up question about Tally. Are you drafting You now have 2 Patriots wide receivers. Are you drafting Cam Newton also?
Oh, there's definitely
Cam Newton's a cheap quarterback.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's definitely on my radar, and he's not coming up for a while.
Yeah, I mean, you can get him with like the 15th pick.
Exactly. So he's definitely someone who's on my radar as far as stacking potential, but it's like I said, once again, if it happens, it happens. But it's definitely an on the radar type play.
Also, I do think if you have multiple stacks in best ball, just speak to what you guys are all talking about. If you can somehow get multiple stacks with quarterbacks and players,
it's actually very easy this year, because a lot of the top wide receivers are going like almost inverse of their quarterbacks as far as draft position. I mean, Michael Thomas, 1st round. Drew Brees is the 9th round. Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, both the 2nd round. Tom Brady is in the 9th round as well. Devontae Adams, 1st round, or sometimes late 2nd. Aaron Rodgers, 10th.
Another one that I actually have right now is
Julio and Matty
Ice. So like I said, that's another one. I didn't even think about the stack there. I just moved on. I took the player I like the most. Now I happen to have what I think is a high-powered stack. But like I said, at the end of the day, I don't care that it's a stack. I care more that I think those players can produce.
So in best ball, to our viewers that are still with us at this point, I know this is going to be a little bit longer of a draft because of the size of the team that you have to fill in best ball. Stacking is very important in best ball because you can draft for depth at every position, so you always just get the best production out of any one guy. It's not like redraft where you're tied to whatever you put into your lineup. If the Falcons pop and you have Calvin Ridley and Julio and Matt Ryan, you get all of their production because they're probably all going to be the number ones for their various positions in your lineup. So stacking is actually very important in best ball because best ball is it was probably the best for stacking, honestly, because it really allows you to capture all of that upside.
Yeah.
I agree to an extent. I still look at it as like if the Falcons come out and Matty Ice throws 2 touchdowns to Julio. Julio just had me a great week, but Matty Ice is subpar. Or he's okay. Like he's probably gonna be my starter if I don't have anything else that booms. But for booms for quarterbacks, you need 4, and I'm not expecting 4 touchdowns to all go to Julio. I expect 1 or 2 at the max, and then maybe Matty Ice throws in the third one. Which, yeah, like I said, I see the value in it, but I don't think it's ever really going to affect my draft strategy. Other than maybe, like I said, Cam Newton as a very late pick definitely has an interest.
That's fair. I guess you're entitled to your own draft strategy. You definitely capture upside though by not stacking.
Yes.
That's what stacking gives you. Stacking does give you that upside that other lineups can't reach. Frank, are you looking at 12-5 here?
Kind of going between wide receivers and tight ends.
So you're just fine with 3 running backs?
For now, yeah. There's a couple of later guys.
Okay. Yeah, it's bold. I wouldn't be happy with 3. There was a lot of best ball leagues I was in last year where I decided to try and get cute with running back, and all of a sudden at the end of the year I was like Nick Chubb and Raquel Armstead as my running backs because of injuries. Deshaun Jackson, huh?
Yep.
Why?
Again. Well, we know the Philly offense is notorious for not being able to stay healthy.
Yeah, but over Sammy Watkins or Preston Williams or Golden Tate or Justin Jefferson?
Yep.
2 I lost right there to the same player. Give up the glory taking Antonio Gibson and Damian Harris right there. 2 good picks. I'm real broken up on that one. This one, I'm just going to go ahead and I'll take an upside play, and I'll just go ahead and take Big Ben.
Sure.
He's just a guy who can score me 40 or score me 3, and I think between him and Matt Ryan, I should be solid. If it works out, I might take a third quarterback, but I could feel comfortable going in with just 2.
Yeah, I mean, so that's... Roster construction is a strategy in best ball, and honestly, if you're locking up these more surefire things, I wouldn't recommend going any deeper than 2 at quarterback. You only go really deeper if you're taking riskier guys.
Yeah.
But ultimately, because you did touch on it, quarterback scoring is very similar across the board for the most part, with the exception of those boom guys. There's not a ton of value to taking really more than 3 quarterbacks because you can only start 1, and they're all going to have relatively similar scores.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm actually going to go ahead and grab a guy that I had no hope of falling to me, but he did. I'm going to grab Mike Gesicki here.
Mm-hmm.
He was at the top of the draft board at my last pick. So I thought there was no way I was still getting Gesicki at 12-11. He did. I'm perfectly happy snapping him up there as a tight end to pair with Hawkinson.
Yeah.
And then if this Gouache guy doesn't really just jump in and ruin my day, I'm actually going to go for a stack that I'm a big fan of this year. I missed out on Cooper Kupp, so I couldn't really complete the stack, but I can still take Jared Goff here to round out my quarterback position. Goff is someone who should be due for some positive regression.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was bad last year. He's probably not the savior that everyone thought he was when he was, that high-flying quarterback a little bit earlier in his career, but I guess 2018. But
Yeah.
But he should still have plenty of good games. Rodgers balances it out with me where I don't have to rely on Goff. And if Goff has good games, especially with Cooks out of the offense, good chance that Robert Woods is also going to be part of that good game.
Yeah. I'm a little bummed Godwin went. He was a nice guy to take for depth. So I'm just going to go for a boom play here, and I will take a piece of that Kansas City offense. I'm going to go ahead and take Sammy Watkins here. When the year started and Sammy was in the same range and a little bit higher than Mecole Hardman, I was less on the train. But in the 13th round, a guy who could just be the number 2 for KC and has that just long ball potential. That's what I want in best ball, where he might win me 2 or 3 weeks just because he scores 27 points from running an 80-yarder to the house and then catches 2 or 3 other balls. That's exactly the kind of guy you want in these late rounds, where you know that they have huge game potential.
Well, and everyone's acting like Mecole Hardman's already officially past Sammy. I mean, Sammy opened the season last year as the wide receiver 2. he's still a talented wide receiver. I mean, he had first round draft stock, a 15th overall pick with the Bills, I believe.
Well, I believe it was higher than that. I think he was in the. I think
He might have been 8. He might have been 8. Yeah.
Yeah, he was in the single digits. I do remember that coming out of Clemson, but he's a guy I've been always kept an eye on. And I've really wanted to see that breakout, and I figured this is the best place for him to do so.
Sure.
There's just so much other talent on that team.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to exactly pick who's going to be good, but I mean, like you said, 13th round is a fine spot for Sam. That's almost undrafted in redraft leagues.
Oh yeah.
You went ahead and picked your guy Jonnu at 13-8, Frankie?
Yeah, it's going to be my last tight end. I just wanted to get kind of like
I don't hate it.
Blanket for touchdowns. Like, I'm not really looking for that boom guy at the tight end position. It's more of going to be that, who's going to get the touchdown this week.
Yeah, you're just looking for a team that scores touchdowns and has some touchdown upside.
Yeah, I mean, you guys know I'm not a fan of Jonnu, but in best ball with the expanded rosters, you're not giving up as much by putting him in a bench slot. I don't know if I would have drafted 3 tight ends like you did this early, but it's not a bad strategy. I mean, it does at least give you some redundancy at the position, so that way you should at least always have one that's going to be good.
Another guy off the board I was hoping for.
I was eyeing him. I knew you were waiting on A.J. Dillon to fall to you.
Yeah, well, hopefully, I do.
There's a run on tight ends going right now too.
Like I said, that's the other thing you can kind of spark, and you see people now, like, they'll just start plumbing tight end because they feel like it's not going to be there. And
oh yeah,
like I said, I'm sad because there's a lot of guys that just went off the board I wanted for my second tight end.
Sure,
but there's still guys I will just take because we're going all the way to 18. I will get somebody there.
Yeah.
Like I said, but I am broken up about seeing AJ Dillon going just because I think he's a great late round flyer if everything goes his way because he could just be a touchdown vulture. Like I said, I think his worst he's going to snag you a few touchdowns that could just fill in for a few weeks. But, Frankie, you're up in 20. What are you looking at?
Are you finally getting a second quarterback? You could get Ryan Tannehill to pair with Jonnu.
I mean, I also have A.J. Brown.
I did,
but more importantly,
checked
Jonnu.
Yet, but I don't think we get handoff points. Just to remind you.
No, I actually was looking at a quarterback there, but it's somebody who I don't know if you guys would expect me to take here.
I mean, honestly, if you don't take Ryan Tannehill, I think you're kind of a bozo. Because then you would be taking advantage of having that stack there for when it pays off.
Do you pick Frankie? 2 seconds.
Yeah. Why not?
Who were you thinking about picking?
I was gonna pick up Jimmy G.
Before I bullied you into Ryan Tannehill.
Exactly. So I'm gonna make real quick. Just this one's also is a little more of a sweet pick that's coming up for me because I didn't think he was gonna go and he hasn't. So I'm just gonna do it right in the eye of Ian. I'm gonna go ahead and take Justin Jefferson right in front of you.
I would have been happy if he fell to me, but I wasn't really. I'm not broken up, but I've still got 4 good wide receivers.
It's late rounds, so you're never too broken up about losing out on somebody. But it was that extra little sweetener to the pick.
Sure, I mean, I would have been happy if he fell to me. I would have happily taken him at 14-11.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't get everyone you like, and there's still other guys that I do like as far as upside guys on the board. I do need a few more wide receivers because that is my shallowest position. I mean, I've got 4, but I've got two quarterbacks I'm fine with. I've got 2 tight ends that I'm fine with. So I am going to go ahead and grab some wide receiver depth here. I'm going to open with Alshon Jeffrey because I don't want to miss him.
Mm-hmm.
And while he is probably going to miss the start of the season due to being on the PUP list,
yep,
unless he just misses the year, which I don't think he's in danger of, when he comes back, he's going to provide value that these other guys in this range are not going to provide. I'm happy to take that wide receiver 1 production that Alshon gives you when he's healthy for as long as I can get it. And then once it's gone, it's gone. But he could realistically win me a few weeks when he's healthy, even if it's only 4 or 5 weeks. And then I'm going to turn around and I'm going to take Denzel Mims.
Okay.
I don't love the Jets' offense. I don't. But 15-2, we're talking waiver wire fodder here.
Yeah.
Like this, the ADP is so low on this kid that it's hard to not like him in this range, especially given how bad the Jets' defense is going to be. They just got rid of Jamal Adams. I think C.J. Mosley opted out. Like they've got holes all over that team. They're going to have to throw a lot to stay in contention. They just spent a lot to get Denzel Mims. He's a pure dart throw, but he could pay off big.
Yeah. I'm going to go with another dart throw I think has some tremendous upside. And I'm going to go ahead and take Joshua Kelly from the Chargers.
Vitali, I hate you.
I like him.
Yeah, of the guys that are not Eckler, I think Kelly's the one to own. Justin Jefferson, he's just undersized. Kelly
The team has shown they don't want him.
Exactly.
They've always not like. We thought last year that he was going to get some run, and he didn't. They constantly kept him out of things. And then they had an opportunity to feature him this year with Melvin Gordon gone finally, and they went and drafted a new kid. Like, they don't want Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, and they clearly wanted to go...
Or Justin Jackson, excuse me.
Yeah. They clearly wanted to go with the guy who was a complement to Eckler and his pass-catching ability. So they went with a guy who's a big bruisery type back, which, like I said, he's in the same vein as Dylan, but I think he has a better chance than Dylan to vulture touchdowns and take those inside the 20 runs, because Eckler's not that guy, whereas Aaron Jones at least can do it.
Yeah.
So I'm actually surprised. Granted, it's a lesser offense, but I'm surprised Kelly's not going in the range of Dylan at the moment.
It's because it's a lesser offense that he's not going there. I mean, no one wants to tie themselves to a Tyrod Taylor offense, and I can't really blame them. And then you also factor in that not everyone's sold on the fact that Joshua Kelly is going to take up that, not really bell cow role, but more pure running back role. It's Justin Jackson and Joshua Kelly are sort of cannibalizing each other's ADP, and that's why you see them both so low, because no one's really sure who to take in that situation.
Yeah, they're both pretty much in that same range, so it's like...
All right, the guy that keeps stealing all your picks is up, Vitali.
Larry Fitz, like I said, I don't think that's a bad pick at all right here. Like I said, Larry Fitz just for some reason will not go away. The forever legend. He's gonna have a game that's gonna be
I will say this give up the glory person does have a very interesting running back core. Chris Carson, DeAndre Swift, Damian Harris, Keyshawn Vaughn. I mean, Antonio Gibson. He's got a lot of probably not going to hit, but if they do, then he looks like a genius picks on his bench.
Yeah, he's definitely fighting for that for those hype guys.
Yeah, he's hoping that one of those hype guys... He kind of went the zero running back strategy where he's just drafting a lot of pure hype guys, hoping that one of the situations pans out really well for him, and he ends up with a top 24 running back that he picked up in the 11th round.
Exactly. What are you looking at, Frankie?
Well, I'm banking on the Lenny injury here. I am going to pick up Raquel Armstead.
Bold.
At this point, I mean, nothing's really bold. We're in the 16th round.
I probably would have taken Nyheim Hines over him, honestly.
Or
Jerick McKinnon, for that matter. I mean, they're both in better offenses, at least.
Yeah. Here, I'm just going to go ahead because there is a world where I have two older quarterbacks. I'm going to go with some young talent that has that breakout potential. I'm going to go ahead and just lock up Drew Lock.
Locking up the lock, huh?
The lock. The
gotta lock that lock away behind a lock.
The kid's got so much talent on that team around him to... Like I said, it's one of those situations where there's
a sink or swim situation.
It's a sink or swim situation for him early in his career. He showed that he had flashes of talent off the bat, and I'm ready to buy in on that in the 16th round. So he might never ever see the start for me, or he could be a guy leading the way right next to Matt Ryan.
Yeah, I mean, he's going off the board next to guys like Corey Davis, Miles Boykin, Steven Sims. I mean, these guys are nothing players. You're taking players that... Like, we're not even talking about like loose hold on their role, like players that potentially have no role on their teams.
Oh yeah.
For me, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take my third quarterback right here. Mostly because while I do expect Goff to have a better season, and while I expect Rodgers to have a better season, they both are coming off down years. And if the down year is more the start of a down trend, I want to have some more depth behind them. So I'm going to take Gardner Minshew. We just mentioned in the news. I know he's got the COVID, but I'm not really worried about that continuing into the season for him. 16th round is perfectly fine for me. I'm pretty deep where it matters at running back and wide receiver, so I have these extra spots to use on quarterback and tight end. I'm going to take advantage of that.
Yeah. Gardner Minshew was actually the guy I was looking at there next to Locke. I just went with the guy who I think has the better offense. That was the big thing for me.
No, I can't blame you there. I've been taking a little bit of Locke in this range myself because of that. I think I've said a couple times, it behooves you to tie yourself to strong fantasy offenses.
Mm-hmm.
The less you have to rely on teams that are probably going to be bottom 10 offenses, the better it's going to be for you. And the guy I was hoping was going to make it to 17-2, Jerick McKinnon, did go off the board. I'm going to... It's tough for me here. I'm going to rely on the fact that I do already have a pretty strong running back core, and I'm just going to go back my tight end up a little bit more. Jace Sternberger is a guy that I've been taking a lot just due to where he's been going, and the fact that I actually have been getting a lot of Rodgers this year. I don't... Mm-hmm. He's like a 5% chance of hitting, maybe lower than that. But if he does, I don't mind having him tied to Rodgers. They could make sweet fantasy music, especially at a position that typically is very, very shallow.
Yeah, Sternberger was another guy I was looking at. Like I said, tight end for me is probably going to be like, I'm just going to grab a guy in my last round. There's one more guy I want to take here who I'm actually looking at. He might fall to me, but he's sitting high on the list right now.
Dawson Knox?
No. Dawson Knox is probably going to be the guy I take with my last pick. I'm hoping for Anthony McFarland Jr.
Oh, I thought you were talking about tight end. Excuse me.
Oh, yeah, no. Tight end.
Oh, yeah, no. Anthony McFarland Jr. is a good pick in this range.
Yeah, he's a guy, you said, he just has that weird feeling of that guy that could come out of nowhere, because if Connor goes down...
I don't think it's that weird of a feeling. I think it's just Connor sucks. I mean, not sucks, but he sucks at staying on the field.
Yeah. I guess I'm just going to go and lock it and just keep us rolling. But like I said, McFarland has the speed that kid has, the fact that he's on the Pittsburgh offense, and if Connor continues to have injury issues, I could see this kid, this rookie, who they took in the 4th round, that's not that deep. That's decent capital for a running back.
Yeah.
Could show something. So that's kind of what you're taking here in the 17th. You can take the boring player who might just fill in for you, like the Ty Williams, like
the Nyheim Hines.
Yeah, or a Nyheim Hines who might just fill in an abysmal spot for you. But
yeah.
I'd rather take the guy who's going to hit a home run for me.
No, yeah, I don't like. So the big knock on McFarland Jr. is that he's a little undersized and he's dealt with some injury issues of his own. But like, injury issues don't always mean that they're going to continue into the. Like, he could just never get hurt again. We don't know that. That's why I always say, like, don't try and plan for injury, because you could just cost yourself out of being able to draft a good player.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, 17th round, we know the guy in front of him is prone to injuries. He could never see the field, or he could be the feature back in a Pittsburgh offense that is firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing for me when I look at a best ball draft is I'm not drafting to have the safest, most consistent team. I want to hit a home run as many times as possible, because especially in a tournament where
Tyrod Taylor's off the board.
Yeah, it's one of those leagues where formats, I should say, where the better your team is. Like I said, you talked about it in the beginning when I took Dalvin Cook. If he goes down, I can supplant him with other things. I think if Dalvin goes down, this team's down the toilet anyways, because I'm replacing him with lesser talent. Ideally, this team works out where my key pieces stay healthy, some of my late round picks boom, and that's how you win tournaments. I feel like if you play too sheepish and too cautious and really try and back up everything, you're limiting so much of your team's potential.
I'm surprised that you have that stance, given that you don't believe in stacking, because stacking is how you capture the maximum upside on your team. Like, it's hard to really get past those offenses that have that if you don't try to set those stacks up.
Like I said, it's just, for me, I look at it as it's a daily fantasy thing. Like, you want to capture the stack for that day, but there's always situations where a guy will just have. Andy
Isabella, huh?
I do really like that pick.
Yeah, I like him this year as like some guy you're going to get, especially in redraft. Probably not drafted
Great,
at all.
like I said, high profile slot receiver that I was really hoping would come to the Patriots in that draft, but just didn't end up being there. And going to my pick now for my last pick, Dawson Knox still sitting there. The kid showed out. We, like I said, I remember a lot of guys in New England were talking about how much they hated that we missed on this kid.
Yeah.
So I'll go ahead and lock him up just to be somebody in case Darren Waller has a bad day, and I'll just go shallow at the tight end position.
Fair enough. I mean, if you're gonna go shallow at a position, that's the position you want to go shallow at, because people that draft heavy at the position could still go shallow at the position, because we see it every year. There's like maybe 5 tight ends that you're really happy you're owning, and then everyone else you're like,
did he get a touchdown?
Well, they're in my roster spot. I mean, I guess they scored me 5 points this week.
Yeah, woohoo! I got 25 points, and he dropped it. He dropped the ball in the end zone.
Yeah, I'm going to use my last pick here, and I'm actually going to go ahead and I'm going to take Nyheim Hines, who I thought about taking with previously. He's still there. He's just kind of a discount to Rick Cohen, but they've talked about getting him more involved in the offense this year. We know he's an elite pass catcher at the running back position, and at 18-11, there's no one I'd really rather have there. So, what the hell? All right. Let's take a look at our final standings here. I'm honestly not too unhappy with my team. I think I got a pretty good squad here. There's a few spots where I would have loved to get some. I would have much rather had Matt Ryan than Aaron Rodgers, just because I really like Matt Ryan this year. But overall, I think I'm pretty happy with my squad. Any thoughts from you guys?
Yeah, I think the big thing that I would hope our listeners take from this is just seeing the amount of running backs that went in this draft and how early they went.
Yeah, absolutely.
Plan for it in all formats, because I think that's going to be the big thing we're talking about. That's the one. If there's one tip I can just kind of push out there and just pound that drum, draft running backs early. You're going to miss out so much if you try and take Michael Thomas in the first round. At some point, he becomes too valuable to pass up. Like I said, I think 10 is fine.
I think it's the back third of the first round is when wide receiver starts to be a legitimate option, because that's when you're starting to fall out of the range of more of the surefire back.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where I always advocate for offline drafts, because then it shows who's doing the research more. But if you're having an online draft, you could get lucky, and somebody in that top 5 range might take Michael Thomas and push a guy like Kamara or Cook down to you. But at the end of the day, like I said, it's the opportunity lost, the value you're losing at running back by not going heavy running back earlier is just way too much for me.
Frankie, any final thoughts for your team?
Yeah, just to speak to what he said. I mean, just go running back early. Like, I don't like to leave the first 3 rounds without 2 running backs. I think that you're going to find yourself, especially this year, being as shallow as it is, with a lot of being top heavy in those first 2 rounds, and then kind of that trickle into the 3rd round. Then there's kind of like that gap. I think that it's just really important to take running back early this year.
All right. Well, that'll do it for this best ball draft. Thanks for bearing with us and hanging out for the entire thing. I hope you guys join us on the Underdog platform, and look forward to maybe drafting against a few of you guys in some of these drafts over the rest of the preseason, or I guess whatever would be a preseason to this point.
Yeah.
But we will see you all Thursday with our new episode. I think we're doing a tips and tricks to win your draft this week. So it'll be a little bit of a different episode, but looking forward to bringing you guys some helpful information. Have a good one, guys.
Tell all your friends.